Welcome to the Missing Detail channel. This is what we're working on. Working on a Special Hobby BF109E1 Eduard G4 and an Eduard F4, and then just coming together is a AZ Models K14. I'm not a total expert on BF109s, but I feel like the releases we're getting at the minute are a great instructional aid and a great demonstration as to what the differences are in the different BF109s. So what I'm doing this morning is trying to replicate some of the beautiful detail we have on these Eduard kits. So we have the leading edge flap, which is now beautifully molded, which you can have either open or closed. From what I gather, that when these are on the ground, the leading edge flap with gravity would be sat forward. So, and this is a detail that people have struggled over the past, putting this detail into kits that didn't have this detail molded in. Unfortunately, even though AZ are doing a great line in some of the esoteric 109s, they're not moulding the leading edge flap as separate. So what we're having to do is we're having to learn some of the old skills that some of the older modelers used to partake in, which is cutting off this leading edge flap and making it so you can position it open but looking like it was intended to be so. Okay, right, so this is slightly surgical, so we're going to go for a brand new blade. So pop off this old, this blade's perfectly sharp, it's just I've slightly nicked off, I don't know if we can see, I've slightly nicked off the very tip, and we need that. So brand new blade. I'll still use the old blade, it's just I won't be using it for surgical jobs, modelling surgical jobs that is. I'm not interested in cutting flesh up, especially not my own. Okay, so what's important here is we never go outside of the panel line. If we do, it's savable, we can just fill it, put some black super glue in there, fill it up. But we like to save ourselves from having to do some extra work. So I'm just going to carefully cut repeatedly where the panel line is. Okay, so I can already see that there's actually a couple of holes in the mould here, and they're going to have to be filled anyway. So there's actually a little, the actual panel line there goes beyond the point it should do, and this panel line here has actually got a little nick out of it. So it's not scientifically produced, this AZ kit. They are a lot better than the older ones, but still that's pretty poor. Okay. So we're just going to keep it within the confines of that power line. Nice and slowly. If we're not sure, we stop and we look where that scalpel blade's heading. And once we've made a couple of cuts, each time we position the blade, we'll be able to feel a deeper trench, and it will give us a guide. Now here I've just switched around because I want to be able to reach each corner all the way to its fullest length. Okay, like I said, if you're not sure where the blade's going, I'll just stop and get my visuals, get my bearings rather as to where that blade is heading. Defining each corner. As we can feel that trench grow, it gives us more confidence to press a bit harder and thus cutting much more plastic and speeding the job along. Okay, now I'm going to cut through probably the easiest part to cut through, which is the very edge. Just going to try and pass all the way through there, like so, just so it gives me a guide on the other side as to where my cut marks are. And this has actually worked out well, because I have actually already done the other side. And you can see on the other side, it didn't actually quite meet up the panel line, that is, where it should have done on the underside. Now I might adjust that, but I'm going to wait until I'm putting the leading edge flap together with the other side of the wing, so I can see what can actually be seen. You know, does it look out of place? I'm kind of hoping that when the flap is actually in place, here's the flap I cut off, I'm hoping when it's actually in place, it might actually hide some of that misalignment underneath. Right, so it's just a case of slow and steady. Try not to do any negative modelling like marking the wing. Right, so this is quite thick plastic we're getting into here. So what I'm going to try and do now is I'm going to try and run my razor saw. Now this is a super fine one. I'm going to try and run this just down the edge. This is more brutal than the scalpel blade, But I think ultimately it's actually it's a fair bit thinner than the scalpel blade is. So that's why I'm not shying away from using this, because it's gonna probably keep that panel line as thick or thinner, say, than it would do with just a scalpel blade. So again, regularly stopping and just checking I'm following the right path. And what I don't want to do is if I don't go perfectly horizontal, well, not perfectly, if I don't go horizontal enough, I'm going to end up carving into this part of the wing on the underside. So just being mindful of that we keep it horizontal to the wing. There we go, and the other one. See, because although the scalpel blade is razor sharp, or near enough, it cuts thin stuff really quickly, but the deeper you go, it's quite slow in cutting it, really. But the beauty with the scalpel is, you have that control continuously. So yeah, I'm a bit worried I'm going out a little bit there, so I might just go back to the scalpel and get better definition of the groove. Yeah. Okay. Now we could probably drag this razor saw on the top line. I don't feel like I've really got the control there. So we go back to the scalpel. So this part of the wing is surprisingly thick. We're looking at it's probably about 3 mils at least. Which doesn't sound a lot, but the deeper you get into it with the scalpel, the tougher it is to make headway. Again, I'm not attempting to do each corner from one side, I'm flipping it around so I can get properly in that corner. The main thing is we retain the panel perfectly on this side. What's underneath doesn't matter, but this side we want to retain that panel perfectly. Alright, so I'm just going to check we're fully separated into the corner with this razor saw. So this could be a technique used, say, if you want to open up a panel, do some scratch building, or pose an aileron or whatever, open, or landing air brake. If you want to pose an air brake or aileron open, or whatever, then this is exactly the same technique. And we're not much thicker, depending on what, it's probably under the size of a Airfix panel line. It's the AZ, so it's kind of in between. It'd probably be a lot finer on your lovely Eduard kit, which as you can probably see has got beautiful riveting all over, all different size riveting, so it really is a bit of eye candy. Now, as good as that is, I find it a little bit weak in places. I'm trying to show you a place where I haven't sanded it. It's certainly something we could achieve with our own riveting tools. So what I'm doing now is I'm just trying to bend it to see if it's weakening. Get back to the scalpel for a few more passes. So here it's just starting to bend, so it's going to do the work for me. The underside doesn't matter, I'm going to be carving that way anyway because it's too thick. So there we go, half the job's done. And we've got to watch it doesn't distort the top surface, because that's what we're trying to maintain. The work's now done for us. So come back in and just separate. Always keeping resistance on the knife. One, so it doesn't go into your fingers, and two, so we don't cut into any of the surface detail. And there we are. Alright, so just want to kind of check in that we're only cutting away the inside and not, we've already defined that panel line, we're not looking to define it anymore. That's lovely and square and parallel. So I'm just looking at what's been cut is below the line of that panel line. Yeah, we're not looking for perfection here, we're just trying to be careful we're not destroying that top detail. Again, the sides down into the corner. And do the same with what's separated lead and edge flap. Right, there we have it. Now what we want to do is we're going to pose this a little bit forward, like so. Which means we're going to need a bit of plasticard between the wing and the leading edge flap. The best thing about modern kits is that is just a perfect reference for us. So that's what we're trying to recreate. So the way I'm going to attach that leading edge flap, I think I'm going to cut a groove with the razor saw all the way down here, almost giving us like a step or a shelf, which would then enable us to attach that, or enable me to attach that to the plasticard. Just adjust this camera. Okay. Right, so the way I would do this, so there is actually already a, I don't quite know why, but there's almost already a groove down here, exactly where I want it. Possibly that's where I cut the scalpel before I tried to bend it. So I'm just gonna, it's 80% there, I just want to redefine the last bit here. It's not quite as parallel. Just want to define a parallel line so I can sit that razor saw on it. Slow and steady, always checking I'm running parallel. Okay, there's resistance both ways in the knife, so I know I'm not going to stick that into the end of my finger. Much like when you're using a pencil, you're not just pushing on it, you're resisting both ways. Okay. So now I'm going to try and get that razor saw in there. Always bearing in mind, if I get disoriented, I reset. Just the surface I want to maintain. This surface doesn't matter. So if I slip that way or something, it doesn't matter. So there's me groove. Just a few gentle passes with the end teeth just to establish the route that the razor saw is going to take. Again, orientating. Okay, so now we're on rails, as it were. Just going to check. Yeah, we've got that. We're maintaining enough material. Just looking so that. Okay, so I could probably tweak it. So we're cutting parallel through the plastic where there's material. i.e. we're not going to just pop out the top or the bottom of it. I want to go probably, obviously it's tapered, so I want to probably get 2 mil just over on one side, maybe 3 mil, and probably 1.5, 2 mil on this side. Okay. Just being careful not to run out of that rail groove you've made. Okay, so something there. Right, so there I feel like it's going to start to run. We're running out of a bit of room there. So I'm just going to clean that out a bit. Again, there's resistance on the scalpel both ways. Obviously I could edit this video down, potentially. I could edit it down, but then I think showing you the entire process, not necessarily what I'm doing with the plastic, but how I'm handling it. Always checking the progress I'm making, so I'm not going to end up destroying the piece. You know, I'm a firm believer in careful, steady work makes the project progress, as opposed to taking backward steps where I've destroyed stuff. So I'd much rather stop, recalibrate my bearings and carry on than just push ahead. See, so we're achieving this splice down the centre of this quite small piece. Just checking I'm not about to pop out the side of it. Yeah, it's going well. So when this piece is sat on top of the plasticard, it's going to look like it's the actual width of that panel with any structure inside of it would have been. Right, so where we at? Let's have a clean up. Right, we're probably just over a mil both sides, so I've got a fair more material on this side, so I can focus on the leading edge here a bit more. Now, these razor saws, you get a, I'm not sure what make this is really, art scale. Yeah, art scale seems like everything they do is gold, to be honest, certainly for small detail stuff. So that side's pushing a bit more, and that side's probably almost there. So, a few more passes just to even off the belly I might have made in the middle. I'm going to call it there. Got a couple of mil outside, mil and a half that side. Right. So now what we want to do is cut down from the top and cut that piece out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to orientating, just checking what surface I'm trying to preserve. So that's the end of me cut that. So I'm just going to cut up to mark that on the top, on the bottom surface. So I've got a mark there, and on this side clean it up. Let's see about that. Just push up parallel and make a mark. And this is, I guess, it's a safety knife really. I've taken the innards out, and they use these super sharp sort of parallel blades. So I use these for cutting parallel lines and things. So I'm going to line up between the two marks. And I'm not trying to cut, I literally just want to put a mark in I can follow. There we go. Now if I want to highlight that mark, I could use a pencil or a felt tip. So this. Maybe black might have been better, but yeah. So I'll show me my line. Maybe a couple of passes just to define it with my scalpel. And we should be able to back to the razor saw. Right, let's get the scalpel back on. Attempt just to get a small guiding groove inside that line I just made. I think I'm running out, and all I do is I kind of place the scalpel blade fully down on top of the surface, just run it out. What I might do here actually is find my tool number 1, which is Shimura Alec Company Holly. I've had this for years. Wish they still made them. Absolutely the best scribing thing ever. It's just a piece of Japanese steel, but still sharp, and it's so comfortable in the hand. I try not to use it too much for this sort of stuff, because even though it's useful, just because I won't ever get a replacement. Alright, so let's put a bit of a groove in there now. Back to the laser saw. Alright, so what you got? Trouble I'm having here is if I squeeze this any at all, it just will bend, so you're not going to get a parallel line. So I could persist, or I could attempt to just cut that line in there a bit more. Maybe let's do that. Right, so it's not gone straight forward here, but what it's about is seeing where it's going wrong and correcting it. So a couple of times it went a bit wayward down there. Finally we're just starting to get to push straight through. A nice parallel line. Still kind of just using the front teeth. Right, so kind of got it working now, but we still need to just be careful we don't destroy the piece. Just checking that we don't cut up through into the upper surface. It's getting pretty close. In fact, I think if I'm running my nail along there, that's just going to separate. Don't put too much force on it though, because the piece we're retaining is also quite thin now. So a few more ones, maybe just through the belly. There we go. Yeah. So now what I'll do, it's probably not going to really matter. I just want to tie that up, make it nice and square. So the plastic card fits in there nice and parallel. I'm not quite certain how I'm going to fit them in a bit yet, but you know, the better my plans, the better it's going to go when I get to it. So by squaring this off, should just make it easy when it comes to fitting a piece of plastic card under there. There we go. Right, so there's the, remove the edge flap. That's it in there, like so. It should look far more, should give it life and look more realistic than the AZ wing originally. Now, one thing I want to do now, it's kind of similar to the flap. I want to cut a step into it like that, just so I got something to put that plastic card into, and also I'm going to be cutting it so it's giving me the width of what the structure would look like realistically. And I'm cutting like this. I'm probably 10% watching the tip, and the rest of the time trying to look ahead to adjust if I feel like I'm no longer maintaining a parallel line. Just looking ahead. And once we start off gently and score the line into it, we can start pressing a bit harder. Just working that line. Probably looking at between 1 mil and 2 mil step we'd like to have in here. Let's have a look, see what we did. Yeah, that's what we got last time. Just probably 1 mil then. And then just cut down the sides there, just so that's defined. And then may as well just go ahead and cut. Yeah, cut that way. Feels a bit thick. As we have it so deep, we can probably just peel it back, much like when we cut the flap out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the length of the plastic card, get it fitted in here, then for multiple dry fits, just trim it back, trim it back, trim it back until the leading edge flap just sits where it looks right. But it's nice to do this just to experience what 109 builders have always had to try to achieve. I was going to say with basic kits, but with, you know, high-end kits, but we've never featured this kind of quite characteristic element to the kit. Obviously, if you're doing it within flight, it doesn't matter, because I guess in the air pushing against it keeps it closed. I'm not an expert, but right, so that's feeling like it's starting to separate now, so I could probably come in here and cut downwards. Just get it steady though, don't want to damage anything. Okay, so get to the point where it's scored enough, we should be able to just kind of almost prise it back. There we go. I'm using this knife because it's a bit, even though it's sharper, got a bit more material. It's a bit stronger than the scalpel. It's got to be done out. And then let's see what's to come apart. See, it could be cut into there, a deeper angle, so maybe we're just coming in there and do a bit more cutting, just a bit more parallel with the wing surface might be what that needs to release. There we go, and he's gone. Quick bit of tidy up. Probably. There we can go. It was pretty easy just to drag the scalpel through there, to be honest. Basically using the shelf as a guide just to find that corner. Rather to find the corner of that edge. Well, ledge. There we can cut the corners out nice and sharp. I was going to save us around to trim the plastic card down. If it just goes in nice and square. And the scalpel along here not only removes material, but it lets us feel as to where any high bellies are, so we can move them out. So it's not perfection. It's all hidden. It's where the underneath surface is going to project from. So just make our life easier when we come to fit that. I think when I fit it though, I'm going to have to put both parts of the wings together first. Let me just clean up the other side. It doesn't matter quite so much. Nice gentle sanding stick. Watching out, I'm not leaning into the leading edge. I'm just trying to keep it off the leading edge. We define that with the scalpel. Just anything that's inside there. The leading edge might burr up a little bit, so I might get the smoother side and just. It's not going to remove a lot of material quickly, so more forgiving. But you can see it's catching the grit, so there's clearly a burr there. So let's use a bit more power. Okay, use my finger just to feel if there's a burr still there. It's starting to get off now, so I don't want to push the grit too far into the plastic now. Now I'm not sanding backwards, I'm mainly sanding off because I want to keep a nice square edge to that aperture where we've removed the panel. And it's just a little bit on that edge there. Again, only sanding in one direction so we don't soften that edge. There we go. That's now ready. Any sort of swart for anything we're not sure, we can try and clean out with the scalpel. Make it as sharp as possible. And then we're running a tiny bit of extra thin along there, we can just tidy that dust and any swarf up so it looks like it's meant to be. That's that. So now this will fit beautifully. And clean this up as well. Again, it's not softening that square edge, so I'm only sanding in one direction, just to push that little burr down that probably pushed some plastic as I was putting pressure on. And it's quite flexy this, so I'm trying to hold it, one so it doesn't snap, but two so it's flat when I'm sanding it. It's a bit tricky this because it wants to bend. But I'm trying to do the majority of the sanding in the direction where it's going to maintain a crisp edge. I might just run a scalpel along there, just nice and gentle. I don't want to carve that tip in because that's going to damage the surface. Gently. Just the majority of that gone, and I can just go in there. Clean that up. Let me just check the edges. And what would be nice would be if, let's see if I've got one here. What would be ideal, which I'm amazed no one's ever done in the past when this was a standard procedure you had to do on BF 109s. I'm amazed no one in the past made leading edge. Oh, I've stuck them all down. Oh, I've got some on the so this is the Eduard kits, and they're already stuck down. And the Special Hobby kit, which I think is made by Eduard as well, the Special Hobby E, which is amazing, but it's not. In the year or so they were making these 109s, Eduard, they absolutely went from amazing to top of the shop, in my opinion. The G's and the F's are so much better in engineering and all sorts. But yeah, so in here we have, should have, so you can see there's the wing, there's the leading edge without the flap on it. There should be two flaps in there, maybe there. Oh, there it is, there they are. why no one has ever made packs of these. Yeah. So these are the parts from the Eduard kit. Oh no, Special Hobby kit rather. Which confusingly is made by Eduard. Tooled by Eduard. And I think, I've checked the dual combo by Eduard, and it is the same kit. Same plastic. But yeah, why no one's ever made kits of these? Just a pack of 10 of these, so you could cut the entire piece out. Interesting enough, AZ have made theirs quite small, but I'm sure you could construct this if you had that blank to work from. Yeah. You would have thought that would have been an aftermarket kit or aftermarket part, which would have been quite successful back in the day. But now we have these wonderful kits. It's not really needed. It's just the old manufacturer is still not doing these bits separately. Well, there we are. Next step is going to be I think this wing needs to be closed up. If I put it on the right side, I think this wing needs to be closed up for me to position the plastic card and then position the edge flap. Otherwise I'm going to be guessing at the position of it. I might well end up trimming a bit of this out. This part here should technically be part of that leading edge, so I might well end up cutting this off and sticking it to that and filling it, but I don't really want to do that. I think it's kind of going to be hidden really. Yeah, when that's in there, we get the right one. Yeah, when that's in there, I think I might hide some of that underneath. Yeah, we'll see. Right, the only thing I'm going to do now is I used to go around with a pencil and put a bit of graphite into all the little nicks and holes that need filling and make a mark there so I remember to sand it. But I think really, if you can deal with these little issues, these little filler issues, as you find them, and there's less chance of missing it. Yeah, we've all been there, we've all done the final paint job just to discover it needs some more filling. Which is why I use super glue. You know, as much as I possibly can. Sometimes use Mr. Thinner as more of a sort of tacking agent. Here I just want to clean the old super glue off my pin. That's not the one. Right, so I need a tiny dab, and this is what I'm going to use for filler, black super glue. Everyone uses it, not necessarily for what I'm using it for, but I mix it with this VMS black super glue. I mix it with the VMS acrylic, what's it called, acrylic filler. It's like an acrylic powder which you mix with it with super glue to make like a filler paste which will sand. So here I'm just gonna, there's a couple of tiny little holes. So I'm putting some super glue in and I'm pushing the pin into the hole just to make sure it's not an air bubble underneath the super glue. There's quite a few of these little, almost like pepper holes. What do you want to call them? The headrests are about 10 of them. Right, so that's that. There is actually a little groove just there as well. Yeah, I've had some kits I've done which have turned out amazingly, but I think one had about 150 little dinks and holes in which need filling, and then potentially squibing just to... I think I started that. I'm thinking of is it Special Hobby? Italian CR25. I'm pretty sure it was Special Hobby. Yeah, it was Special Hobby. And I only actually started filling that kit when I bought it second hand. I thought I'd fill it and put it in the stash already filled. But I did so much work on it to fill all those about 150 gashes that I ended up carrying on work with the kit and finishing it, and it's probably been one of my most successful competition winners. So there you go, it goes to show. Put the work in, earn the prizes. Anyway, thanks for joining me on the channel. See you next time on the Missing Link channel.